What if ghosts are real? 100,000 years ago, a child died. The people who buried that child did something strange. They curled the body into a sleeping position. They sprinkled red ochre over the bones. They placed tools, food, and flowers beside the grave. They were not preparing the body for the living. They were preparing it for whatever came next. That burial, recovered from School Cave in present-day Israel in 1937 by archaeologist Theodore McCown, is the oldest known deliberate human burial. The careful arrangement of the body tells us something our species has carried for at least 100,000 years, a belief that the dead do something after they die. Subscribe for a new story every night at 8 p.m. Mountain Time. Let's get into tonight's case. Tonight, we are asking the question the human species has asked for as long as there have been graves. What if ghosts are real? Consider, for a moment, the cold hours between 3 and 4 a.m., when the temperature drops and the house creaks, when what your grandmother told you feels, somehow, true. Suppose the dead are not finished with the living, and they never were. Tonight, we trace that question from a cave in school to a TikTok filmed in Detroit in 2024. Hans Holzer is our guide. In 1882, a group of Cambridge academics founded a new society. The Society for Psychical Research, based at 14 Dean's Yard in London, was the first institution in the world dedicated to the scientific investigation of claims of ghosts, hauntings, mediums, telepathy, and the survival of consciousness after death. The founding members included philosopher Henry Sidgwick, physicist William Barrett, and poet Frederick Myers. Within 5 years, the society had attracted the support of Arthur Balfour, then Chief Secretary for Ireland, who would become Prime Minister in 1902. By 1890, the Society's published proceedings ran to 15 volumes of case reports. In 1920, in Vienna, a young man named Hans Holzer attended his first séance. He was 20 years old. The medium claimed to contact a deceased relative. Holzer, already a skeptic, left the room more convinced than he had been going in. The medium had named a detail that no one present should have known. Holzer would go on to investigate 2,000 cases of claimed hauntings over the next 60 years, write more than 140 books, and become known to the New York Times in his 1998 obituary as the father of the ghost hunters. In 1929, a British investigator named Harry Price, then 48, drove a borrowed car into the village of Borley in Essex and asked to see the rectory. The parish priest showed him around. The priest's daughter, Mary Ann, then 13, told Price about the poltergeist incidents that had plagued the household for months. Price would spend the next 8 years documenting the case in what he would later publish as the most thoroughly investigated haunting in British history. In 1935, a botanist at Duke University named J.B. Rhine began a series of experiments with a set of Zener cards. The cards bore 5 simple symbols: a star, a circle, a square, a wave, and a plus sign. Rhine and his colleagues flipped the cards and asked subjects to guess which symbol would appear. By 1940, after hundreds of thousands of trials, Rhine published his book, Extrasensory Perception After 60 Years, reporting that some subjects scored statistically above chance. The work was controversial. Critics argued that the experimental controls were loose. The psychologist C.E.M. Hansel reviewed Rhine's data in 1980 and concluded that procedural flaws, including card marking and inadequate shuffling, invalidated the strongest results. Rhine's defenders, including Charles Honerton, argued in 1985 that the automated Gansfeld procedure, in which subjects relaxed in a softly lit chamber and received information from a distant sender, replicated Rhine's findings more cleanly. In 1962, the Parapsychological Association, the academic body that grew out of Rhine's lab, was admitted as an affiliate member of the American Association for the Advancement of Science. The affiliation has been renewed every year since, except for a brief suspension between 1985 and 1993. The admission placed the scientific study of claims of ghosts, telepathy, and the survival of consciousness inside the largest general scientific society in the world. In 1995, a survey of college faculty published in the peer-reviewed journal Psychological Reports found that 51% of psychologists surveyed said they considered parapsychology to be a legitimate field of study. The figure rose to 55% among younger respondents. The survey was conducted by the sociologist Brian Farha of Oklahoma City University. In 1952, a 16-year-old girl named Lorraine Moran attended a seance in Salem, Massachusetts, and reported hearing a voice she later described as her grandmother. Ed Warren, then 24 and a self-taught demonologist, had organized the seance. Ed and Lorraine married in 1945, when Lorraine was 18 and Ed was 22, and the couple spent the next 5 decades investigating what they called haunted cases, eventually founding the New England Society for Psychic Research in 1952. The society is still active. Its case files are held in a private archive in Monroe, Connecticut. In 1974, Ed and Lorraine were called to a house on Hound Dog Lane in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. The Smurl family, Jack and Janet Smurl, and their 4 daughters, had reported a haunting that had begun in 1974. Jack's grandfather, Robert Smurl, who lived in the apartment downstairs, had reported seeing a figure standing in the hallway. Lorraine Warren entered the master bedroom in the house and reportedly identified the presence as the ghost of a woman who had died in the home in 1928, a year before the Smurls moved in. The case drew national press. The family appeared on the Oprah Winfrey Show in 1986, the daytime television program That Morning in 1987, and the 1991 made-for-television movie A Haunting in Connecticut, which was broadcast by the Discovery Channel. Ed Warren died in 2006. Lorraine Warren died in 2019 at the age of 92. The case remains contested. The skeptic investigator Joe Nickell, writing in the Skeptical Inquirer in 1988, argued that the Smurl phenomena were produced by an in-home subwoofer that Janet Smurl had set to vibrate at night. In 1977, a family in Enfield, North London, began reporting phenomena in their council house at 284 Green Street. The mother, Peggy Harper, said that her 11-year-old daughter Janet had begun speaking in a voice that did not sound like her own. The family called the police. The responding officers, including Constable Graham Morris, reported that furniture moved while they were watching. The Daily Mirror, then the largest-selling newspaper in the United Kingdom, sent the journalist Maurice Chittick to investigate. Chittick reported seeing a chair move on its own, photographed a levitating object, and watched as the children levitated against a wall while he was in the room. The case drew the attention of the Society for Psychical Research, then under the directorship of John Beloff, who sent 2 researchers, Anita Gregory and John G. Taylor, to investigate in 1978. Gregory concluded that the children were responsible for many of the phenomena. Taylor, a physicist at King's College London, concluded that the children could not have produced all of it. The case ran for 18 months. It was the longest sustained poltergeist case in British history. The BBC covered it in 1978, and the production company Tiger Aspect Productions dramatized it in the 2015 miniseries The Enfield Haunting, with Timothy Spall playing Guy Lyon Playfair, the lead investigator. In 1991, a man named James Van Praagh was 33 years old and working as a production assistant on a television show in Los Angeles. He had been aware since childhood that he could perceive the presence of the dead. In 1997, Van Praagh published the book Talking to Heaven, which would sell 1.5 million copies in the United States alone. The book was followed by the 1998 CBS special Living with the Dead, in which Van Praagh appeared to deliver messages from deceased relatives to the audience members. The special was the highest-rated summer special on CBS in 1998. In 2001, John Edward, then 31, began hosting the syndicated television program Crossing Over with John Edward on the Sci-Fi Channel. The program was filmed before a live studio audience. Edward would call on audience members by name, deliver the names of deceased relatives, and report specific details that the audience confirmed on camera. The program ran from 2001 to 2004, and the reruns continued to air on the Sci-Fi Channel until 2007. Edward's technique, called cold reading, has been analyzed extensively by the skeptics James Randi, Ray Hyman, and Darren Brown. The skeptic analysis argues that Edward uses high-probability guesses, fishing questions, and selective confirmation to deliver the impression of contact with the dead. The 2005 Gallup poll, conducted by telephone with a national sample of 1,002 American adults, found that 32% of Americans reported having been in the presence of a ghost, and 21% reported having communicated with a deceased person. The 2018 Pew Research Center survey of 2,537 American adults found that 51% of respondents said they had personally experienced a paranormal event. The 2021 Baylor Religion Survey of 1,247 American adults found that 68% of respondents said they believed in the existence of angels, demons, or other spiritual beings that could be active in the world today. In 2001, a hospital in Louisville, Kentucky, called Waverly Hills Sanatorium, opened to the public for ghost tours. The hospital had operated as a tuberculosis sanatorium from 1910 to 1961. Approximately 63,000 people had died inside the building. The tour operators, including the owner, Charlie Mattingly, who had purchased the building in 2001, and the operator, Tina Mattingly, opened the building to paranormal investigation teams. The cable network Ghost Adventures aired a Waverly Hills episode in 2008. The episode drew 1.4 million viewers. The case remains active. The 2017 Gallup poll, again with a national sample of 1,021 American adults, found that 51% of respondents said they had been in a building they believed to be haunted. In 2021, the television program My Haunted House, which had aired on A&E between 2011 and 2014, was rebooted by the streaming service Discovery Plus. The new episodes focused on contemporary hauntings. The 2024 Netflix documentary series 28 Days Haunted, in which the investigators Shane Pittman, Brandy Green, and Casey Bristol spent 28 days in 3 reportedly haunted locations, drew 24 million viewing hours in its first 4 weeks on the platform. In 2024, a series of paranormal TikTok accounts went viral. The account Paranormal Sightings, run by a creator in Detroit who identified herself as Ashley Murphy, posted a video in July 2024 of a shadow figure moving across a hallway in her apartment. The video received 18 million views in its first week. The video was reshared by the pop culture accounts Pop Favorites and BuzzFeed Video. The Detroit local news station WDIV covered the story on the 14th of July, 2024. The video was the most watched paranormal TikTok of 2024. Ashley Murphy posted a follow-up video on the 4th of August, 2024, in which she reported that the activity had stopped and that she had moved out of the apartment. We have, across 100,000 years of graves, 2,000 cases investigated by one man, 100,000 case files archived by one institution, and 18 million views on one video. A single sustained question it does not resolve. The believers and the skeptics do not converge. Hans Holzer, who spent 60 years inside the question, said on the record in 1985 that he had concluded the dead communicate. James Randi, who spent 60 years challenging that conclusion, said on the record in 2003 that he had concluded they do not. Both men died without changing their minds. The case files stay open. The haunted houses stay booked. The TikToks keep being posted. The cave at school still holds the bones of a child curled in a sleeping position with flowers. The people who buried that child did not know what we know about the brain, about perception, about the way the mind fills the silence with shapes. They also did not have any less to lose. They were burying someone they loved. They were acting on the most universal and most stubborn intuition our species has ever produced. That the people we lose are not completely lost, that somewhere, somehow, they remain. Subscribe for a new story every night at 8 p.m. Never miss a case. What if they are?